I'm Eamon Fennell. I'm supporting Ireland AM's mental health campaign, It's Time to Talk.
And our thanks to Eamon Fennell, former Dublin All-Ireland winner. They're supporting Ireland AM's Time to Talk campaign. Now, it is quite common for a person suffering from depression to feel both ashamed and worried when it comes to opening up to their family members about their condition.
22-year-old Tom Lenihan, son of the late Brian Lenihan, knows this all too well. He joins us this morning to share his experience with us, along with Dr. Harry Barry, who has advice for those of you at home in a similar position. Good morning to you
both. Welcome both.
Tom, thank you very much for coming on, and can I salute you for your openness and your honesty. We saw your previous interviews with other stations, and I think both of us said on that day that there's a brave man, there's a young man his father would be proud of. Reading the notes about you, the thing that struck me most in all of the quotes that you said was that there were two hardest things you had to do in your life. One was to tell your sister that your father more than likely wouldn't survive, and the other was to tell your parents that you had depression. And I thought, therein lies the heart of the problem, is that there is the difficulty in a nutshell about how we talk about this, who we talk to, the difficulty we have in admitting that we have an issue with it. And you, by the way, had two very loving, supportive parents. So it's not like they would have been hard people to go to with a problem, but still, it's one of the two hardest things you've had to do in your life. Why?
Yeah, it was no exaggeration. I'd probably put both of them on the same level. I didn't know how they'd react, I guess, when I first told my parents that I had depression. I mean, part of it is you've kind of accepted in your own mind that there's something wrong with you, and you're going to deal with it yourself by whatever means you can, even though I didn't have the skills aged 13, 14, 15, 16, right up until I was 18. Then part of that is you start to build up a kind of a coping mechanism that my parents couldn't have signalled it really, because I was, for all intents and purposes, a different person, I guess. I would pretend to be happy, I'd wear the fake smile, that kind of thing, when inside there was a lot of turmoil going on. I would have felt very strong suicidal thoughts, and when it gets to that level, you're making a choice between whether to kill yourself or whether you actually want to survive, or whether you want to have some drive to get better. And I suppose when you really get down to it, you feel guilty and you don't want your parents to suffer. And
why was it so hard to talk to them? I mean, you said that they were incredibly supportive. They were the kind of people that you could go to with problems. Was it because you thought that you'd let them down, or that you would that you had failed them in some way because you felt like this, or that there was something so awful about you that they wouldn't like you anymore, or what?
Yeah, a combination of all those things. I mean, on one level, I had a very loving childhood, very loving family, so I would have felt very guilty. I mean, what could be wrong with me when there's other people's going through a lot of family strife, or financial hardship, that kind of thing. Part of it was I didn't want them to suffer, I guess. I didn't want them to make them feel sad. And when you tell someone you feel sad, immediately they feel for you, especially for a child. That's very hard to explain for a child.
How did the conversation go, Tom? I mean, did you say, I need to speak to you, let's sit down? I mean,
yeah, I suppose, I mean, when you get down to it, when you really contemplate suicide, you're thinking, well, how, the last thing you think is, or the first thing you think is, how are my family going to react? And my family are going to react a lot worse at the end of the day if I kill myself rather than I tell them that I had depression, try get it sorted. I was very nervous. There was a talk by Aware in my school, and they kind of went through the symptoms of depression, and I ticked all the boxes, so that was kind of frightening. That was kind of a wake-up call, I guess, as to how to get treatment, because I would have, you're 16, 17, you don't know where the support services are really.
Isn't that worrying?
Yeah, it is worrying.
Part of the problem.
But I mean, a lot of us now, I mean, that goes for any age, I think. So I went home at the weekend, very nervous. I said, just blurted it, Ma'am, I think I have depression.
And did you tell them that you'd actually had thoughts about taking your own life? Did you go that far with it?
I felt that was even too tough to say. The simple thing of being sad was enough to bring my dad to tears anyway.
Well, you are dealing with two very bright, well-educated people. I mean, once you open the door a little bit, I think they could probably fill in the blanks for themselves.
Yeah, no, they definitely knew, but it was very hard to, I suppose, open a dialogue to begin with.
Harry, I'm going to bring you in here because we're going to run out of time, but the two things that Tom mentioned there, the being worried about upsetting the people you're going to tell, and also thinking, sure, what's wrong with me? I've had a wonderful life. I shouldn't be feeling this way. The guilt, that is very common. Those feelings that Tom just expressed there incredibly well.
Yeah, I think they're really, really important. I think the big problem that people, when they're very down, feel that they're the problem rather than that depression is the problem. And in some way they're weak, and in some way they're letting people down, and they're going to upset people. I had a little 13-year-old now, just to give you an example, who tried to kill herself in a very definite way. And when I talked to her afterwards, one of her things was, I didn't want to upset my mother. So rather than talking about it, and it's like as if when you're in that space, when you're very down, your thinking is not really what I would call the same way as when you're not depressed. So that you actually believe in some way that you're letting everybody down, and you're in this terrible emotional pain. You don't really know how to kind of get it across. And I suppose the most important thing for me is that families become aware of the symptoms of depression and recognise things, say that somebody may be withdrawing, losing weight, not concentrating, getting behind in studies, maybe drinking a lot more, or just somebody not seemingly, if they pick up any signs at all. The most important thing is just to ask. Open up the
how
debate.
should a parent ask? Like, what language do you, if you're thinking that your teenager is depressed or having suicidal thoughts, what do you say to them? What sentence do you open that with?
I think a very simple thing is sit down and saying, look, you don't seem to be yourself, at the moment. Is there anything going on? Are you feeling a little down, feeling a little anxious? A very good word to use, believe it or not, with men is the word stress.
Okay.
Are you very stressed at the moment? Do you get a bit anxious? Does that make you a little down at times? Now, men respond to stress, women respond to anxiety. So a woman will say she's anxious. A man will often say, okay, I'm feeling very, very stressed. And you can go a little bit further and say, well, look, are you getting a bit down at times, a bit sad at times? Are you not enjoying life a little bit? And if you get a response to that, the most important thing is to say, look, when you're like that, it'd be very, very common to get thoughts of harming yourself. Not necessarily that you would do anything, but it would be very common. Because what you're doing now is you're normalising it.
Yeah, normalising.
Instead of making this thing a big, big thing, you're normalising. You say, look, this is a common symptom of this condition.
And Tom, just to finish, I mean, there will be people out there watching this right now who are facing up to what you went through, telling people they love that they're going through this. What words would you give them of advice or information from what you've been through? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my work, I work in the Students' Union in Trinity, and we think it's a huge issue, and we concentrate an awful lot of our resources into it. Advice I'd have for them would be to seek those services. For a parent to be aware of those services. I mean, there were times where my parents asked, is there something up? And it was total denial on my part. I wouldn't face it myself. So you do have to recognise the problem, I have to say. It started out with anxiety. It culminated in a suicide attempt. That's how far it can go if you don't flag it. That's not a kind of a immediate health warning, but just that it's okay to talk about it, and it's actually quite normal, and that the people that love you won't judge you.
The minute you said those words, it started to get better. It was easier when you shared it.
Oh, it was a huge burden off my back.
Okay, unfortunately, Harry, I can't. We'll have to leave it at that. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Ironically, we're going to pass it over to somebody now you know very well. We're keeping it in the family. Here's Mary.
Hello, Mary O'Rourke here. I'm here to support Ireland AM Mental Health Initiative. It's called It's Time to Talk.